Tell me about everything I need to know about City GIS.
What do you
starting
need to know?
now?
Okay, in 30 seconds, you give me a
In 30
time
seconds.
frame? No, I think you need to look at City GIS as the most important thing we do is service delivery. So, you know, as a citizen of Wilmington, you pay your taxes, and then you want something in return back for those taxes. So you want services delivered to you, whether it be trash pickup, you want the police to respond to a call, you know, you don't want to be flooded during a storm. So GIS helps the city departments deliver those services in a more efficient and more cost-effective way. I think that's the core important of GIS in a city. Any city, it doesn't matter if it's Wilmington or not, it's the same in every city. We help create better service delivery. The second important part, and I think I'm going to be more than 30 seconds, is going to be, you know, the system of record. GIS is going to be is the system of record for a lot of features that the city manages. So whether it be addresses, we give new development addresses, we do street renaming, we are involved with stormwater billing, with the whole tax billing.
Wow.
We need to make sure that the data that we have in our City GIS is correct and up to date. It needs to be authoritative. So it's that system of record. People need to trust GIS to have the right data. And then the third part I think is important, and this is something that Jack Dangerman from ESRI always was emphasized, is the system of engagement. GIS as a system of engagement. We want to engage our citizens. We want to be able to talk to them, but communicate with them. And GIS is a perfect way, story maps or, you know, web maps, apps to reach them and get them involved in city government.
And there's so many different ways that people can engage with the GIS, but I think, and I've beat this horse dead, that I don't think people really know what it is. They don't know enough about it. They might know the touch points. Like there's a map of the Wilmington and the Wilmington GIS that has all the potholes on it, right? They might see that, but they're not really in tune with what it means.
My question for you is like, how important is that they know that it's GIS? Because I've got mixed feelings about that. I think in one way I want to be, you know, almost like transparent. It's like people don't need to know that it's GIS technology. It's technology that helps them out. It's about the service delivery. How important is that they know that that's GIS?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great point. I don't know if it's necessarily matters if they know the exact technology behind it. I mean, most people don't know how their phones work. But they know that the apps pop up. But I think they do need to know where they can go to access these things. It's easily, you put in a web browser, you search GIS, City of Wilmington, or any city that you live in. It should take you to that page, so you can get those resources. But I think so many people, I want to do a man on the street and go walk around and ask people if they know what it is, and I think our responses will be pretty predictable.
But then you can ask them, do you use Google Maps? Do you use Apple Maps? Do you use, you know, it's like it's all GIS in a way. So, I mean, I don't think many people realize it that way, and not many people see it that way. For us, it is important, though, that people realize that the important function that we have, because, you know, when budget time comes around, we need to be recognized for the good work that we do. Otherwise, they're going to cut off GIS budget. We don't want that to happen. So we do need to kind of always make clear what GIS does for the city. I mean, you know, the importance of it, how the city would be provide lesser quality if GIS wasn't available. I mean, how would it affect everyone?
You mentioned, along that same line, you mentioned services. What would be the highest impact service that the GIS provides?
For day-to-day life, you know, it's like it could be anything. What's important for you? Is it crime? Is it like police responding in time to something happening? Yes, well, that's a matter of life and death kind of situation, right?
How are the police using the GIS on a day-to-day basis?
It's like the 911 system, you know, it's like people call in, they say, hey, I'm having trouble, I'm in this and this address, you know, that goes into the system, and somebody in a police car gets, or like a fire truck gets sent to that address. So it's important to have correct data. So the response time just, you know, is much quicker when you know the right place to go to, and then the car or fire truck can use routing. Just like, well, this is my fastest way. There's, hey, wait a second, that road is closed. I need to bypass that. So it's about, you know, delivery and fastness of getting there.
So if you're someone at the city, state level, and you're making these decisions about where the money goes, like what's the sales pitch for why the GIS should get more money, more funding?
Well, the easiest way is actually a 911 because it is really a matter of life and death. You know, it's like the response time for a fire. If that is like 20% higher without GIS, that involves lives, potentially involves lives. So I mean, I think that's the main pitch for anything that GIS does. Really, is that where GIS becomes like if somebody makes it or not kind of deal. And that's not always, that's not always the best way of selling it, because I do think for a regular citizen, your trash pickup might be even more important, right?
Right.
Like, and GIS is involved there as well. We have the trucks, the routes of the trucks get calculated with GIS, with the most efficient and optimal way to reaching all these customers. So, I mean, it depends. I think there's a lot of things that we do as GIS that, we need funding for that, obviously.
I had a previous guest, Steve Stout, and he's a GIS expert, one of the best that there is. And I posed this kind of interesting question. I said, how would people react if there was no GIS?
Right.
And you're telling me about trash. I have a feeling that would be, if we were to just turn it off tomorrow, and trash started piling up in the wrong places, people would notice that right away. Right,
and that's what I'm saying. That might be the most, the biggest impact on citizens when that wouldn't be done. Of course, if GIS wouldn't be there, the trash would still be picked up, and would be done in a different way. It probably wouldn't be as, in a less timely way. It would just,
you would just go street by street, as
street
opposed
by street, instead of finding the optimal route for that. Yes.
Okay. Along that same lines, what technology are you excited about in the GIS space? Like, at the city level, are you constantly looking for new things to integrate to make things better?
Yes, always. I mean, that's part of my personality as well, but the city as well. We always want to do things better, but we also always have to look at new technology popping up. I'm very excited about GeoAI, and the digital twin concept, where you can build like this almost like carbon copy of the city, but then can predict what would happen if you would do this. If you would build this building here, what would happen to the environment? What would happen to a line of sight? What would happen to your trash pickup? There would be like 50 people. So how can you predict that? I think GIS, the future of GIS is becoming more in that predictability field. We want to predict the future. What's going to happen to the city if we do this? So AI can be important for that, and a digital twin where you build like a 3D model of the city. I think that's very exciting technology. And I see that as a big growth areas, one of the big growth areas for GIS.
Yeah, that would be interesting to have at any scale, to have a complete digital replica.
Right. And you see it in some countries. They're really like more advanced in the United States right now than in Europe. You see it a lot, this digital twin. Like the Netherlands has all of the buildings in 3D, all of them, the whole country. And they use that as their basis for the digital twin. So I think that's exciting, yes.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to be able to do those things like you're talking about, add certain things to the city and see how it impacts them, see how it changes the model, and see who gets impacted by it.
Right. I mean, I don't know how. Do you remember the old game SimCity?
Of course.
So SimCity, you built something and you saw all these little cars. The traffic, it would affect the traffic. How great would it be if you can do that in GIS and say, I want to build like an apartment complex there, and how is it going to affect the traffic in the area? How would that affect the surroundings of that place? I kind of like to compare it to that whole idea of like, the digital twin is your SimCity.
Yeah, SimCity was awesome. I remember this game.
Yeah, no, right?
I remember you would build the industrial zone, and it had to be kind of close to the commercial zone. Right. But you didn't want the industrial close to the residential, or else people would complain. And then you had to run the water and electricity and everything.
Right, but how realistic is that, though? It's like when you think about it, those concepts are like completely valid.
And then you had to make people happy by building parks and things like that in there, which would drive your your costs up. And then yeah, that's interesting. SimCity. Maybe we just needed SimCity GIS.
I know. It's like, but yeah, no, I do think that's one of the big areas. You see it already. It's like there's a lot of attention in the GIS field for the digital twin, the smart cities. The whole connected city where all your little sensors and everything can, when something is happening, the sensors will pick it up. I think those are really important areas. I think you'll see a lot more of that in the future.
Oh, like smart sensors that are.
Like for instance, flooding, it's like if you have like sensors along the river, you can say, hey, okay, we see the sensor is picking up water, so we need to do something. Something's
happening here.
Something is happening in the city. So yeah, I think that's important.
I know in the oil and gas industry, they use sensors to look at the pressure of the oil derricks. Oh gosh, I'm not an oil person. Don't quote me, but I know that they have sensors that are looking at that at all times.
Right.
And then they can route out where they need to do maintenance based on those sensors that are on the GIS.
Yeah, but you look at traffic problems, anything, you can use these sensors for a lot of things. So I think that's definitely an area in which we haven't been very advanced with yet, but I hope in the future that we'll be able to do more with that.
Well, you mentioned touch points with citizenry. I mean, every citizen has a phone in their pocket, so essentially they're a sensor, right? I think in the military you hear this a lot, right? Every soldier is a sensor.
Of course, you come with the idea of privacy, and citizens might not want to do that, but they might want to opt in for a program where they can use their phone as a sensor. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, you run into issues with privacy, and
Yeah, that's definitely a double-edged sword there. But, I'm interested in the ways that the many touch points that GIS has in a city. I don't think people understand it outside of city government. Even me, someone who I'd like to think I have a decent understanding of GIS. I'm not an expert. I never claim to be, but I have a decent understanding. I'd be interested to know just how many different areas does it touch? And, are there any areas that are surprising that people probably wouldn't even think of?
Well, you can look at the city as all the different divisions and departments, right? So we have Parks and Rec, it uses GIS. We have Police Fire, it uses GIS. We have Planning, obviously uses GIS. We have Engineering, uses GIS. We have Public Services. We have Stormwater. I mean, any part of every division and department in the city actually uses GIS. It might not be the most innovative way, but just for your system of record, your system was like, we want to collect data because we know it's right. That's very important for the city. It's like we want to be that source of data, source of information that any department can actually use and be confident that it's the correct data that's up to date. So I think that's something that people don't really realize. But, think about stormwater. I mean, when we have a hurricane storming or we have a big rain, big rain coming or something like that, where areas flood, your stormwater system needs to be up to that. And we use GIS heavily for that. Your stormwater pipes, your drain areas. I mean, GIS is heavily used for that. And I don't think people realize that it's not something you see. If you don't know it, how would you know that GIS is being used for that?
What exactly is happening in the GIS for stormwater?
Well, it's like, you look at your high areas, you look at your flooding areas, you look at mitigation. It's like, if we know it's going to rain, this area usually flood. Can we use mitigative measures to make it not flood? Can we drain it? So it's an elevation issue. It's like, but you can build like drainage ponds. You can use stormwater pipes to get that water away from that area. And it's highly complicated, and the city spends a lot of time on that.
Right.
And GIS is heavily used for that, to model that out. It's like, if we have like this area is flooded, I mean, with like, suppose it's like 5 inches, 6 inches, how is that going to affect other areas? How is that draining off to the lower areas?
Where's the water going?
Where's the water going, really? Yeah, it's like, where's it going? And do we want it to go there? Do we want to have it maybe go somewhere else? Because last time when we had a hurricane, this area that we thought it was going to was completely, we don't want it to go there. We want to go somewhere else. And the city spends a lot of time and money on making that work better for the citizens.
One of the things that Dr. Procope talked about in episode 2 of his podcast, check it out if you get a chance, was that there's certain areas where our flood models just fall apart, right? Like we have the 100-year flood plain down, but then we're seeing flooding in the 500-year plain, things like that. Is that type of stuff modeled out?
Yes, that's
locally?
What we are also looking at it all the time. Yes, obviously. I mean, it's really like the city as Wilmington just laying in this low area on the coast. I mean, it's going to affect us tremendously. So yes, it's something we always look at. Yes.
How has working in this field changed over the years? I mean, you've been doing this for how long?
Yeah, I hesitate to say, but I was thinking about it yesterday. I think I took my first class in '92. So yes, it's been 30 years.
30 years.
30
okay.
Years.
See.
Yes, obviously it has changed a lot in technology, but the core principles, the basics, it's still the point, line, polygon, and raster. I mean, the data models really haven't changed that much. Technology around it have changed a lot, but I think the biggest difference is, apart from the technology change, just the wide range of applications that GIS is used for nowadays. Yes, compared to then. I mean, it's just like it's everywhere. It's like there's not a field. I cannot hardly think of a field in the world where people don't use GIS in some way.
Right. What was it like in the 90s? Like what was the workflow like?
Workflow. It's like a lot of it, because a lot of data wasn't digital. Like, so in the 90s when we started doing GIS, a lot had to do with data collection. It was fantastic. It was fun. Yeah. It was like, digitizing tablets with paper maps, and you had like the...
Really?
Yes, it was nothing, no on-screen digitizing. It was fantastic. Right. And I mean, one of the careers I had before this, I used to work for a company in the Netherlands with a lot of consultancy in developing countries and training. And I remember just like in Bangkok, we had to map the slum areas, because that's not part of, the official documentation. So the Thai government wanted to know where the slums were, where people are growing. And we had like a Thai army helicopter, and we would fly over the slums, and then just hang out with our big cameras and take like these oblique photos, and then go back in the office and then geo-reference them.
So when was that?
That was about 95, 96, yeah. Okay. It was fun. It was kind of like the pioneer days. It felt like the pioneer days. It was like, it was amazing just hanging out out of the helicopter and just trying to get your photos like that. And then you would have the photos, and then you would go back and put them on a tablet and try to kind of connect everything, and then you would create a map, and then it was just part of the project.
How did you fall into that? Like what?
It was so I had my first GIS class in 92. And it was basically, I have a degree in geography, and in those days, jobs weren't that easily available. You had to go in as a planner, and it really wasn't a whole lot going on. And then I saw just an ad in a paper saying, hey, you want to be part of the first group of GIS trained staff? And I was like, whoa, I'd never heard of this, but it combined two things that I liked, computers and geography. So it was like a perfect field. Yeah. And so I took that 6-month class, and after that, I've never had any problems finding a job, because there's always job for GIS people. It always has been, so it was great. So. Yeah, I worked for local government for a while, and then I saw this job as being a trainer and consultant for this company. It's now part of a university, and we would have a master's degree students and take them overseas to all developing countries, and we were part of consultancy. Those were fun years. I did it for about 9 years and traveled the world. Yeah, I mean, I can always. I saw Jack Dangermond once a couple of years in Wilmington and said, "Thank you. You've given me this career, and it made me travel the world, and I want to thank you for that." Because it's true. I mean, I've been to China for GIS, the Philippines, Thailand, Argentina.
What were you doing in China?
China, we had the environmental. It was like in Wuhan, actually. It was in
Wuhan.
Wuhan. It was
Wait, hold on a second.
I know.
Richard,
we're not responsible.
Are you the origin?
Of
the coronavirus?
No. It was we were there in the winter time. It was brutally cold too. But we were connected to University of Wuhan, Technical University of Wuhan, and we did environmental stuff, environmental GIS, like emissions and stuff like that. It was really interesting, really cool. But that was like also in that same period of time, 96, 97. So kind of like in that in between communism and what China has developed into. So it was still very rigid. And I was there 2 times. The first time, there was like bicycles everywhere, right? It was like traffic jams with bicycles. I came back like 2-3 years later. It was all changed into cars. It was like, it was growing rapidly fast. But that was quite an experience. I mean, nobody spoke English almost. So It's like, and who ever heard of Wuhan before COVID?
Nobody.
Right? It's a gigantic city, very big, large city, but nobody had heard of it. And
I know one guy that's heard of it, Anthony Fauci. I'm joking. No. So you went to China. Where else have you been on this GIS adventure?
Philippines. We've been a couple of times. That was fun too.
Okay.
Thailand, Malawi, Africa for a land record system, and that was funny too because it was part of a UN grant, and we got that contract, and they needed to digitize, paper maps into digital maps, and they had no equipment, so I had to bring like a big digitizing tablet with me on the plane, and it was on my back, so I came out of the plane, and it was like in those days, I don't know, they saw me, they stopped me, and they took it away from me, and I couldn't get it back until a couple of days later after I paid a heavy fine. I'm not sure if it was like legal or not, maybe it was bribery or whatever, but I couldn't take it into the country. But those were the days. I mean, it was like a small little office in Malawi, and just teaching people how to digitize parcel maps. It was,
okay.
And that's what I'm saying, is like those days in GIS was a lot had to do with for cities and governments to have the data in GIS.
Right.
Because nothing really was in GIS. It's hard to imagine now, but it was really the starting point for many organizations.
So it sounds, are all these countries, are they using ESRI stuff? Is that kind of?
Yeah, I think nowadays they do. Interesting that you mentioned that, because when I started doing GIS, there was a lot more competition when it comes to GIS software, and then
really?
slowly,
Okay.
I mean, we used Atlas GIS. We had an own GIS in the Netherlands called Ilwis, and they were kind of like GRAS now, like an open source software. And
Right.
but ESRI slowly has like either bought up or they kind of replaced this kind of software. It's kind of called this monolith right now, where you still have QGIS and and GRAS, and so you have still these options, but it seems that ESRI is very prevalent everywhere. Just look at where ESRI has their main offices. It's like all over the world.
Yeah.
They've grown tremendously.
ESRI is just a crazy company.
It is.
And they're private, which is the part.
Right.
I was thinking about, man, if they did an IPO at some point, they would go through the roof, you know?
They would, yeah, no. There's always been rumors that Google was interested at some point, but I'm pretty sure ESRI doesn't want to sell, and Jack doesn't want to sell. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't. And interesting too is, like, I think all employees at ESRI are paid hourly.
Huh.
So it's like they have to...
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I don't know, but it is what it is. It's just like, I don't know if it's good or bad either, but I find it interesting because it feels like that company has grown tremendously but kept the same core principles, for good or for bad.
Right.
And also I have mixed feelings about, I really wish there was a little more competition. Because when you're in government, you can only deal with ESRI, so they can set the prices and anything. There's nothing you can say, hey, ESRI, we found this other software that we might want to use.
There's no competition.
There's no competition. So, I mean, and generally I'm very happy with ESRI, but I wish there was more competition, yeah.
I think Google Earth has come a long way.
Right.
If you look at their Earth Engine platform, I could totally see Google Earth competing in certain areas. The thing that makes ArcGIS so good is its flexibility, because you can just use it in so many different areas and you can manipulate it through code. I mean, that's what really makes it powerful.
Right.
And I think a company like Google, they could totally come in and start taking slices. I think on the scientific side of the house, I don't think ArcGIS is really a player at all.
Right.
So I could see that seeping in, but who knows? I don't like to predict the future.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, and of course, GIS and local government has much more to do with databases than with imagery.
Right.
But I remember, like, maybe 10 years ago, there was only one city in North Carolina wasn't using ESRI software, and that was Cary, I think. And they switched at some point. I think all local governments in
they
North
all
Carolina,
use it.
they all use it, and they feel they have no other choice, and they probably don't really, honestly.
No other choice.
I wouldn't know what, honestly, especially the database-driven side of things. I mean, QGIS is nice, and I like QGIS, but the cities want to have support. When they have an issue, they want somebody to call, and I don't think that QGIS is like there's not a number you can call. Hey, QGIS, I have a problem with this, and just a whole enterprise where it has like these large databases.
Not to mention the amount of money that ESRI puts into the R&D of their platform. I mean,
like, what is it, 40% or something like that? It's a lot, yeah.
It seems like they're popping out a new product every month.
Which is hard. For me, it's hard to keep up with. I mean, I loved how they switched, like, I don't know when that switch was, like, maybe 7-8 years ago, when they went from just desktop to actually doing online stuff and started coming up with these targeted apps. I think it's been great, but it's hard to keep up with it. Like, have you seen this app? Well, I didn't go to the latest ESRI conference, so no, I might have seen an email, but I don't know. It's like, it changes a lot, yeah. It's hard to keep up with.
All right, along that same lines, are there any gaps, any massive areas where you think that there needs to be some technology insertion, some R&D?
No, I think ESRI actually is doing a pretty good job. What, is like one of the, if you ask us, if I go and stand in council and ask what they want from GIS, you know what their number one answer is?
What?
Story maps. They love story maps.
Huh.
Because, as you think about it, it's like they want the city to explain or like lay something out. It's like, we're doing this project. And story maps are pretty powerful in the way that they can combine just a map with photos and text. And they're easy to make. They're really easy to make.
They're easy to make.
Everybody loves them. I mean, everybody loves them.
And they're easy to understand.
Yes, yes. But no, GIS people have a love-hate relationship with that. So when I like them, but I know a lot of other people in the GIS world that are no fans of them. But I think they're a good way of communicating. So
I've always found that as a geospatial analyst in the military, I was in the Army. People just like anything that has got pretty colors on it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
If you, I remember there was this one officer, I won't say who he is, but he came in, we were looking at some satellite imagery, and he swore up and down that we were moving the satellite as we were panning around.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, all right.
Right.
Sure. You know, I didn't correct him or anything, but.
Right. Well, to be in this field, you probably love maps, right? I think it's one of the starting points. It was one of my starting points when I was growing up. I loved maps. I loved maps of places I would never go to, but just having a map I thought was amazing. And that cartography part of it, the making it look good part of it is still very important. But sometimes, you know, and I see that sometimes in our organization as well, is like making a map in itself is not enough. People need to do something with that information, right? It's like making the map is not enough. We want to actually be part of the solution, a part of the delivery. And that, I think, is a challenge for GIS people sometimes.
Right. It's got to be more than just that. What's like the marquee project that you've been a part of that you're the most proud of?
Well, I think the most proud of is like we had a massive enterprise asset management project, which is basically all the assets that a city has. Might be a park bench, might be a stormwater pipe, you know, inside an asset management system. And we did this project completely during COVID. We had one meeting in the beginning of the project where everybody was in one room, and then the rest of the project we did completely remote, everyone, and like all the different departments, because it affected many different departments. And GIS had a large part of it because everything was mapped or needed to be mapped. So I think as a marquee project, I think I'm most proud of that because it's working, and a lot of people in the city organization are working with that system. And so it went pretty fluidly. I mean, I don't think we had any major hiccups or anything.
So you have a map of all the park benches in the city?
Yes, we do. We do. But it's important for maintenance, right? So if you want somebody out, it's like, well, we want to maintain every year we're going to go visit them or something like that, you know where they are. And then you can have like your whole maintenance documentation on that feature in the park. So, you know, it's like the last time it was inspected was in 2000, whatever, 2020. And then we need to go back again, or it's like a repair needs to be done, or a citizen can call in. It's like, hey, I saw this park bench that needs to be broken. So then we know, okay, we need to fix that park bench. I mean, GIS is important. It sounds silly, maybe it sounds small, but it really helps out the city a lot. Just having a map where all the assets are.
Yeah, especially here in Wilmington. I'm gonna read this recent study from United Van Lines. They studied more than 100,000 shipments that took place throughout 2022. Wilmington topped the list with the highest percentage of people moving into the city than out of it. Roughly 81% of moves were inbound, while 19% were outbound. In other words, there's a lot of people moving to Wilmington. And there's when you have that giant influx of people, they need this stuff. What do you think about all these people moving here, how that could impact your role?
You know, obviously, having this large influx of people will have a huge effect on the city. You already see it. I mean, I was just driving here on College Road, and it took me forever to get on because traffic has increased even in a couple of years that I've been living here. So yes, I mean, GIS can play like an important role. It's like not just getting all these new citizens, like delivery of their services in the correct way, but also just like, well, how is this going to affect other areas of the city? You know, it's like, how does this work? How are we going to manage this?
Of people moving here, they definitely need to have a good GIS system working, so we can route traffic in the right directions and point out where all those potholes are at. Why does it take so long to fix potholes? What's up with that?
Do you have any personal experience with that? Well, I know there's like a ton of potholes in the city, especially after some heavy rain. I know the departments work as fast as they can fixing all of them, and there's a lot of them. And sometimes they're not always, departments need to be made aware of them as well. You know, it's like we don't know everything that's going on in the city. So people need to call and, hey, this pothole has been out here. It's been out here for
and
a
this
week.
takes me back to where we were talking about earlier, which is if people knew that they could go in somewhere, hit a button, and report a pothole, I think they would.
And we do have a pothole reporter on the website.
I know you have it on the website. But I don't think the average person understands that they can do that, is what I'm saying. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe think of ways the city can advertise it more.
And we're in the middle of looking at a 311 project, which is basically a reporting tool for citizens to enter in a service request, which could be a pothole, it could be,
Why does everything got to be 1-1? Yeah, 811.
I don't know. I mean, don't ask me that. It's like I'm confused by that too. It's like
there's a lot of numbers on that.
811. It's like pad. I know. It's a good point. I don't know whether it's one. There's probably a historic reason for that, but I, as a foreigner, don't know that.
Well, isn't the emergency number different in different countries? Right? Like what's the?
Don't ask me that. It's been a long time. 1 something, I think. I guess 1 is the easiest one to find on your phone, or like the rotary phone, probably it started with rotary.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like, I don't know. I really am just, maybe. I don't know.
You're spitballing?
Yes,
well, I mean,
absolutely.
I think that's a pretty
But yes, it did start at the time of the rotary phones, right? So
it's probably a pretty good guess. So what could we do at the city level better to better provide those services for people?
Well, I think it kind of came back what I said in the beginning of those 3 different areas, which I think GIS is important for the city. I think that system of engagement, we have ways to go as a city. Is like, how do you interact with your citizens? We have a couple of front-facing maps, and we have like the pothole reporter. But A, people aren't super aware of those things that are available. And B, they're not necessarily always very user-friendly. And I think we need to do a better job of making GIS more accessible to the citizens, whether it be in the form of a GeoHub or something like that. But I still think as a city, we can do better with that. And it's one of my goals, my personal goals and my professional goals to make that happen, because I think just making the awareness of GIS better is important, and I think having that as a good-looking, public-facing front page on the city website is something that's important for the citizenry, I think, and I think we have ways to go with that.
Okay, what about people? What types of people are you hiring to do this type of work, and then where are you finding them?
Oh, that's a very relevant question, because I just posted a job vacancy this morning. So we're looking for a GIS analyst. So if you're interested and you're listening to this podcast, we have a GIS analyst position available. Please go to the City of Wilmington website and go to the job section, and it will be posted there. Well, it's like what we see a lot nowadays, we target younger staff members. I mean, we are very lucky to have great organizations like UNCW here. Cape Fear Community College is starting a GIS program, so we want to attract local talent as much as we can. We have an internship program available through UNCW, so we have a lot of interns. But whenever we have a vacancy available, we like to target these organizations, because I think they do a great job at training their students. So that's something that we look for. And I look for excitement a little bit for this position. It's like something that can bring some new ideas to the table, because as I already told you, I've been doing this for 30 years, so I'm old and crusty now. So some new ideas might be a good idea, but no, we are very blessed in this area with tons of GIS talent.
Yeah, I'd like to think that this area, Southeast North Carolina, we're a little geospatial hub. We got something going on. There's a little fireball down here.
I agree. Yes, and I think Cape Fear just started with that program, like I saw it announced like a couple of weeks ago, and that's going to be great too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yes, no, I think I agree with you. We have a little thing going on here when it comes to GIS.
So what in your opinion makes a good GIS professional?
Different things, of course, it has the word analyst in the title, so you need to be analyzed geospatial data, but also you need to explain that geospatial data. You need to be aware of how the data was collected, the accuracy. There's lots of things around the data that you need to be able to understand and explain to people that want to use your product. So that analysis part is super important. But then, of course, you need to visualize it well in the right way as well. So you need to have the cartography skills. I mean, as GIS staff, as GIS trained person, you need to know so many different things. It's like GIS is a big field, and I don't think people realize that how large the field is, because you have people that completely focus on imagery, right? I mean, that's a field in itself. You can super specialize in that, and for somebody who works at the city, imagery is not that important. I mean, not important enough. But you need to have these database skills. You need to know SQL. You need to know how to write queries. You need to know some Python programming. So there's lots of different areas that you need to have some knowledge of. And GIS people usually are kind of generalist in their approach to things, which you have to be. That's just like, I don't know GIS. I don't know. I've been doing this for 30 years. Am I an expert on imagery? No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not, because I have not been exposed to it that much. Am I a specialist in databases? No, but I know enough. But you need to know so many different skills. It's like it's amazing how much you really need to know to be a good GIS analyst or specialist or whatever. I mean, it takes a lot. It's not easy.
So you have to be a jack of all trades.
You do, yes. I mean, especially maybe with the exception of people that are very focused on just one thing. But I don't know people that do that. GIS people always do more than one thing. They're always kind of like the jack of trades. They have their little, tentacles into everything a little bit, because they have to know so many different things. It's amazing how complicated this can be.
Yeah, kind of along that same lines of what you're talking about is when I was in the military, this new phrase started called geospatial intelligence.
Right.
And since then, they've just been lumping more things under this geospatial intelligence umbrella. It went from basically just satellite imagery to now it's drone imagery, and it's mapping as well, and now it's engineering for
it's amazing.
A lot of things they call geoint now that used to just be.
But we have staff in the city that are specializing in addressing. I mean, addressing in itself is just giving a location and address, the correct address. There's an art to it. It's not that easy always. You have complicated situations. So it's like you go from addressing to like analyzing large imagery data sets. Those are completely different things in a way, but they're not. They're all part of this whole GIS umbrella.
I'm interested in the interplay between where the city is, where the county is, where the state is, where the federal government is. What are those touch points? What are those interactions like between these different entities?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have great relationships with New Hanover County. We do a lot of things together. So for instance, like I just said, addressing, county does a lot of the addressing for the county, and the city does their own addressing. But of course, these things need to talk to each other, right? It needs to be one system. So we have one database that we have access to and the county has access to, where all these updates get in. So they immediately, both of us have access.
Who owns the database, technically?
Right. I don't even know who owns the database technically. It
doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't really matter. It's shared, and it's being used for the 911 system, of course, because that's where all these addresses go into. And that's a great example of cooperation between the two organizations. Parcels, we depend heavily on the parcel database. We don't maintain, the city doesn't maintain parcel database that comes from the county. So we have immediate access to it. If they update something, we immediately have it.
Right.
So we maintain streets database for the city. In the city, the county has immediate access to that. So it's kind of like how these organizations just have direct access to the GIS data, which is really helpful. With the state, we deliver data to the state. They have a hub. We deliver data to them, like addressing and stuff goes through there. But the state is great. For instance, we have the 901 State Ortho Imagery Project. So we get like every 3-4 years, we get a complete data set from the state. So that's awesome. And just when you need some assistance with something, you can easily reach out to the state. I mean, I think one thing I love about GIS people, and next week is going to be the conference in Winston-Salem. Everybody helps each other out. Everybody is so interested in assisting. If I have a problem with a database and we don't know it ourselves, I can reach out to the county because they have somebody that might have an answer. I mean, it's fantastic.
So it sounds like there's a lot of interplay between the city, the county, the state.
Yeah.
They're all in separate systems, though. I mean, is that safe to say? Everyone, the state's using their own system?
Yeah, it's all ESRI based, but they are different systems. Yeah.
Man, ESRI's really...
I know, right? I mean,
you got a stranglehold on this thing.
Yeah, we got an enterprise license agreement, so we pay a good amount of money every year to them. And it gives us access to all the software, which is fantastic. But yes, it's not cheap, no. It's not cheap. But then again, I do think it provides a lot of value to the city. And then I don't think we've done an official return on investment study, but I'm sure if we would run that, I mean, you can see how much money the city saves by using GIS.
Okay. Are there any ongoing initiatives that people should be aware of regarding what's happening with the city?
So public facing, I think the important project we're working on right now is the capital investment project. Those are the larger projects that the city does, like more than $100,000, I think, and they could usually a couple of years. Could be a street rehab, could be stormwater, it could be a building. I mean, those are the big projects, a bike path and stuff like that. We're working on this project right now where we're gonna have a public-facing dashboard of all the projects that is active project in the city. There's going to be a GIS dashboard so you can see the location, get the information out, get the information about who the project manager is, how much it costs, and stuff like that. Just part of this whole transparency is like we're doing this, we have the money to do this, but I want to see citizens how this money is being spent and where all these projects take place.
Those dashboards are taking off, aren't they? Everybody wants the dashboard.
They do. It's kind of like story maps, isn't it? But again, I think they convey information in an easy to understand way, and they're not that hard to build. So I think it's one of these ESRI products which are great and fantastic, and I'm glad they done that.
Yeah, those are super cool. What I do like about them in the ESRI suite, they basically just have a button. You hit a button and it creates the dashboard. Right. It's so easy in there. Right. And they look good. People
look good, yeah.
Like having access to the data.
Very good, and they're easy to build and very customizable. And it's like you can.
COVID really put dashboards on the scene.
Yeah,
that COVID dashboard, that was everywhere.
I know.
The Johns Hopkins.
I know.
COVID dashboard.
And I remember looking at that dashboard. I think it was in January, whatever the year was that COVID started. It was like maybe a couple thousand incidents, all kind of clustered still in China.
Right.
Like, man, 6 months later, the whole planet was red. But that was really like a breakthrough moment for the dashboards. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's what makes it fun. Is there's these new things that pop up and kind of unexpected, right?
Right.
Why? Who cares about that? Right. But they're a hot item,
Right.
People always want those.
And anybody, just like with story maps, when people see them done the right way, the same with dashboards, everybody loves them. Everybody loves them. And for GIS people, they're great because they're not that hard to make.
Yeah.
So it makes us look good.
What do you think about, I think this year, particularly 2023, in my opinion, this is the year where we really sink our teeth into artificial intelligence.
Yes.
This is my opinion.
Right.
I think ChatGPT was the first one.
Right.
It's not artificial intelligence, and I know the smart computer science people will hate me for saying that.
Yeah, it's like.
But it's the first. Yeah. It's the first time we've been able to access a large scale language model.
Right.
And see kind of what the capabilities are. And now Google has Google Bard.
Right.
Microsoft obviously is integrating ChatGPT into Bing. So people might actually use Bing. Who knows?
Right.
I'm still not using Bing. I'm sorry, Microsoft.
I know, right?
It's gonna take a whale of time to get me over to use Bing. But what are there any areas that are exciting to you about these technologies? It doesn't have to be just GIS either.
No, I am excited about them. My first experience with ChatGPT was like a couple of months. I was like, I like to read in my, my free time. So I was like,
what do you read?
Anything. I read history, detectives. I
detectives.
I read. I just finished Moby Dick, so I read anything, honestly. So I like to challenge myself sometimes too. But I was like, when you go into ChatGPT, you can say, write me a paragraph in the style of, and you could name an author.
Right.
And I do like these amazing things. It was like, you could say it, you could see it wasn't perfect, but you could tell that it did use that style of that author. And it was like, that was like this aha moment for me. It's like, oh, this thing is actually pretty cool. Mm-hmm. In GIS, we used a little bit for our Python scripts. It's like amazing how it can do that. It's like, I just want to, can you write me a Python script?
Are you using it right now?
Yeah.
So like review scripts and things like that?
Yep. It's very useful for that. Yes. So I was really pleasantly surprised by that. Just asking is like, okay, I want to have a Python script. Just copy data from here to there, and then append it here, blah, blah, blah. This whole script, and it would write it. You would have to change the parameters a little bit, but I mean, the core of it was right there. The names wouldn't be in there, but I'm sure if you feed it into ChatGPT in the beginning, it would work that way. It's just amazing.
It's only a matter of time before they start integrating that with
GIS,
with their products.
I mean, I would think very fast.
So back to the type of people we're looking for. I think it's going to be the people that in my opinion, the people that are going to be successful in the future are the people that really understand how to harness AI. And I don't mean they even have to be experts, but the ones that just they look for ways to creatively add those prompts. Like you're talking about write it in this style, but the people that really understand that creative aspect to it. And this is where I think it gets funny, is I think that creativity is going to be more valued than hardcore skills.
Right. So hardcore skills will be taken over by the AI itself.
The computer will do the skills, and then the creative aspect, who can put two things together, that's going to be the valuable skill.
You're probably right. I would combine it with curiosity. Creativity and curiosity. It's like you want to be looking into that. Creativity is fantastic. I mean, I totally agree with you on that. I think the future is for the creative people, and then combine it with curiosity. Man, that's just going to be like...
Creativity and curiosity.
Well, that's kind of what is like, I think that's one of these things that GIS people usually have, is that creativity and curiosity. Yes. So, I've interviewed many people, and they always seem to have those two things. So, so they're probably well prepared for the future then.
Hopefully.
Although it will take some of our GIS work from our shoulders too. I don't think data creation, you see it already a little bit in imagery, is like with these models running and just automatic detections, like it doesn't need human intervention anymore. So it will change our...
there's a lot of computer vision models out there now that will detect, for us on the military side, whenever we're supporting the military, we're looking for things that detect certain types of order of battle, what we call order of battle. So, Russian equipment, Chinese equipment, things like that. And they're pretty darn good at isolating those things and saying what they are.
Because I remember one of the things that always amazed me, that was even the beginning of the career, that's gotten much better, is like these crop prediction models, where they can see is like, okay, in January, this is how the crop looks in name an African country, and you can see is like there's a drought, and you can just predict based on that what the crop will be later in the year. And I think that has gotten a lot better with AI as well, where they run these programs on top of it and predict, like, well, this is what we have right now. And I guess for agriculture anywhere, it would be the same. It's like, oh, this is January, February, we have this imagery, we can see how the crop has been doing. So based on that, we can predict what the yield is going to be later in the year. Then if you see problems like in Africa, I was like, you can predict, famine in a way. I was like, you can have your interventions earlier because you know what it's going to be. I think those are exciting areas, yes.
Are you familiar with any of the new kind of apps and companies that are popping up surrounding commercial satellite imagery?
Yes, a little bit. It's a jungle out there, isn't it?
It's getting crazy.
How do you pick the right one? How do you get the right product? It's like I heard it's very confusing.
It's very confusing, and there's a big lack of. I mean, if you look at the big satellite imagery providers like Planet and Maxar, if you just go and try to buy imagery, it's a pain in the butt. Like the average person's not going to go through this process. So I think as it becomes more democratized, it's a good thing. It'll become more accessible, and people can go in and buy their imagery and do their analysis. But it's like there's a new company that pops up every day. So it's kind of exciting for me. I love working with new solutions and things
now,
like
do they sell different products then, or do they sell the same project but it's just a reseller?
Well, everyone's product is better than everyone else's. Right. But things like synthetic aperture radar, you're seeing new companies pop up around that. And what I think is interesting about SAR is, from a geospatial intelligence perspective, SAR's always just been this gap filler for us. It's not the main thing that you go to, but if you have cloud cover, you need to use SAR, because that's going to help you determine what's down there. And now we're seeing a lot more of these use cases pop up for SAR, and it's kind of cool to see that. It's this kind of old school technology implemented in a new way. So it's been fun to see that.
So do you think that kind of like jungle thing that you have right now will disappear, like the survival of the fittest? The best one will remain kind of company?
Well, I think just like any market, some of the companies are going to start gobbling up the other companies.
Right.
And then eventually you'll have one ubiquitous commercial satellite, commercial imagery provider. Well, I hope so, because may the best company win, really. Because there's so many companies right now. It'd be nice to have an easy button. To just say, I want imagery, and I don't care where it comes from.
No, in terms of costs of this, there's a huge range in cost then as well.
They all have different cost models. Some of them have different terms of service. Some of them want you to only get it through their API. Some of them, want you to purchase X amount of square miles per month.
Right.
Or sorry, square kilometers. They use miles. They use kilometers. Right. Everything is in meters.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, if you're from Europe, it's okay.
That's so confusing, especially when you cook these cups and stuff. It's like, who came up with that? Or like tablespoons. What kind of measurement is that?
I agree. I don't know what went wrong when we were determining our measurement system. I don't know what a foot is. I don't know. But that's
good.
Isn't that crazy how these things, these legacy things like that, they just stick around and we never seem to change them.
Right, yeah.
But do you know that what is changing is daylight savings?
Yes.
It's going away.
Yes.
At the end of this year.
Right, thank goodness.
No more daylight savings.
Right.
Yeah, thank goodness.
It's like it's an old, this whole idea is like it's not valid anymore. It's like I don't understand it anymore, no. And it's a hassle for everybody. It's like nobody likes it.
What I was getting at was it's incredibly difficult to change obvious things at scale.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Even with all of our technology and all this cool stuff that we have, school still gets out at 2:30.
Right.
Elementary school.
Yeah.
Why?
Right. Yeah.
No professional gets out at 2:30.
Right.
Unless you're a teacher, and even then you're probably staying until 3:30 to get your stuff done. Like, why can't we change these things?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, yeah. Some of these things are so ingrained in us. It's like, but why? I mean, does everybody ever ask the question, why are we still doing it that way? It's like, go back to your metric. It's like, why are we doing that? Like, why not have like a standard that anybody can use? I mean, it wouldn't make life easier for everybody, but I guess there's other people that would say, this is what we are used to. This is part of our culture. This is our history. I want to change that.
If you look at the rise of electric vehicles, right? This is happening. Are they all going to use the same plug? This is my question.
Yeah. Well, you know the answer to that.
They're all going to have
proprietary plugs.
They're going to have a proprietary plug. You have to buy their system.
Right.
So there's going to be an Apple Thunderbolt car.
Right, exactly. I mean,
you have to plug it in.
Yes, exactly. It's like, all the smartphones have different plugs in, and then they change it every 2 years too to the other proprietary plug that you have to buy then. And
it's total
not
crap.
Compatible with any. But yes, I mean, unless I don't know. It's like, I guess there would be a role for government in that, but then of course you're going to be intervening as government in the free market. Do you want to do that? So, but yes, you're right. I mean, everybody will have their own plug-in.
Look, I'm a free market capitalist.
Right.
But somebody's got to do something about Apple.
But you need to have some standards around that, right? I mean, you have some kind of like, okay, come up with this that anybody can use this. Because, I mean, it's crazy that we have all these different like cables and power cords and, nothing works with anything else.
I'm an Apple guy, right? I have the Apple Watch, Apple phone, Mac, and iMac.
Right.
And they all use different plugs.
Right. Yes.
Right. The watch has this circle magnet. The phone has the Thunderbolt plug.
Right.
The computer uses USB-C. Oh no, actually, the laptop uses like this magnet thing. I don't even know what it is.
Right. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, have that.
And
one
then the iMac uses another plug.
Yes. I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Stop the madness.
You travel. It's like when I travel, it's like I have like 5 different cables in my bag. It's like one for the phone. I have an iPad, has a different plug.
Yeah.
Right, then the iPhone itself is a different one, so it's like, it's crazy. I do think that the phone is going to USB-C now, I think. They're kind of forced to do that, I think.
Yeah, because of Europe.
Right? Yes.
Europe is basically saying, like, enough of this.
Right.
And thank goodness.
Right. So you are in favor of a little bit of government regulation there.
I am. I mean, it's just gone out of control with these things.
Yes.
And then if you ever want to buy another item, God forbid you don't buy the same brand name, because they're just going to use something else different.
Right.
And I always think it's funny though. I think Apple's hilarious because what they'll do is they'll just provide you less of something and say it's for the environment. Right?
Oh yeah, with their power cord with the phones, the charger is not included anymore. Yeah, it's for the environment because you already have a couple of them laying around at the house.
Yes, it's for the environment. Here, it's green. We're green here at Apple. It's called cutting costs and driving our margins. Yeah. That's what it's called.
Did the price go down? No.
No, actually, it's gone up this year.
Right, but it's for the environment.
But it's for the environment. You will do it. Anyways, they need. Oh man. We have this iMac, and the iMac it comes with the mouse, the Air mouse, has one of the dumbest designs I've ever seen. It's got a plug that goes underneath the mouse. So you cannot charge the mouse at the same time that you're using the computer.
That's crazy.
And it goes back to GIS, which all runs on Windows.
Well, there you go. Yeah, no. I wish there was an Apple component. I mean, I like Apple too. It's easy to update and it kind of works, you know. It's like it's easy to use, but
yeah,
ArcMap has never been available for Apple and it won't be ever.
Isn't that something?
They say the market is too small, which I guess...
That's insane because everybody uses. I mean, there's a lot of if you go on a college campus, everyone's got a MacBook.
I know, but then you go in the labs at college, it is all Windows machines.
Yeah, yeah. That's something else. What are your thoughts on kind of integrating these new technologies with the GIS? Like we talked about ChatGPT a little bit. We talked about those computer vision models.
Right.
At the city level, what are some things that we could really do if you had the firepower, if you had the horsepower of a good AI system? What would be like, bam, the number one thing?
It's like what I would like to see AI do for GIS at the city level is going more in that prediction of what's going to happen. Like, not looking at the situation that the city is in right now, but can we use AI to say, hey, 1 year from now, this is how it's going to look like. This is what the city will be if we run this model or use this AI. We can predict the future a little bit better because, always this kind of responsive in the responsive mode. You have an issue, respond to the issue. What if we can see issues coming up before they actually happen?
Right.
I mean, that whole prediction model, what was the name of that movie? The
Minority Report?
Minority Report, but then you're like more at city problems, right? It's like, what can we do? What can we see something happening in the future already? That would be, I mean, maybe pie in the sky right now, but I think with these new technologies, I think that would be an exciting area to be able to go into with GIS as well. It's like, what is going to happen? Because we've got challenges coming up. I mean, we have a growing city. We have challenges there. We have...
What type of things could you predict though? One of the things that has been pointed out before is like pulling sentiment analysis from tweets and But
that's interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting field. Yeah. Well, you can. I mean, it would be at the city level more like traffic patterns and stuff like that. Flooding areas.
And Google Maps is pretty dang good now at telling what the traffic's looking like.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty good.
It is.
That means that they're tracking everybody's phone.
Right.
If you have Google on your phone, they're tracking you for the traffic data.
But the issue of flooding, I mean, it's going to get more and more important in this area. Also with sea level rises and changes in everything in the climate. I mean, how is that going to affect the city? Can we measure that? Can we kind of predict what's going to happen? It would be great if we could do that, right? So we can actually be proactive instead of waiting for something to happen. If we can get to that place, man, that would be fantastic.
Something kind of along that lines, Dr. Procope had this interesting idea of setting up drone locations where they're stored in a pod, right? And you see DJI has some of this. I think like Skydio has drones that do this now. And then immediately after some type of extreme weather event, they take off, they go collect data, and they shoot it back to the source for analysis.
Yes,
I think that'd be really cool.
That's one of exactly. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Is the city using drones at all for anything?
Not at a very high level. Our police and fire has some that they use when there's an incident, so you can fly it around the incident. As GIS, we don't really have been using them a whole lot. We've been talking about, and one of our staff is trying to get certified now in drone usage. But no, not a lot. I mean, I would be interested in like we get these aerial imagery every couple of years from. But the city's growing so fast. I mean, they're usually outdated fairly quick, and using drones just to keep better up-to-date imagery would be fantastic if we can do that. Just look at river lights. That's so fast, and we have no real good aerial imagery. Plus, I mean, they could fly it right now, and it will be out of date like a month from now. So how do we get like almost like real-time aerial imagery? I mean, it would be fantastic. Use drones.
Yeah, certainly could do it. Obviously, there is a funding component there, paying somebody to go out and collect that stuff.
Right, but I mean, it would be an opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah. You were talking about River Lights, which is the area along the Cape Fear River,
right?
Kind of south of downtown, right?
Right.
That area is blowing up.
Yeah.
And, which is also interesting because they're basically building that right on top of looks like wetlands to me. I don't.
Oh, there you go with your flooding and your prediction of that. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work either. I mean, we haven't been through a major storm since that really has been built out. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work.
Yeah. Anything else happening at the city? Like, what's your day-to-day life like as a GIS manager for an entire city? I mean, is it just chaos? Is it every day? Do you have a good structure of things that happen?
You like to have a structure every day, but then something might pop up that will throw the whole schedule, out of the window. But I mean, our first thing is always my first responsibility morning is just checking if our infrastructure is still up and running, the servers and everything. Everybody has access to the data, and usually they'll let me know really fast because there's so many things running on this GIS now. I think that's been one of the big changes for us in GIS, that if GIS goes down, EAM is down, that Enterprise Asset Management System, they cannot do without GIS. So that's for us has been a big change. So my core responsibility is in the beginning is like in the morning, is everything up and running? Did nothing crash in the middle of the night? So, and then we just have lots of different things coming in, like addressing issues, stormwater billing issues. We have our little.
What happens if something does crash? Like, what's your response to that? Like, something's down. Does this happen often?
No, but when it happens, it's usually not good. It doesn't happen that often, but we have a high availability enterprise system, GIS enterprise system, and it means that in theory, at least, if one of our components goes down, the other one will automatically pick it up. We have about 12 servers now, virtual servers. But in reality, it's more like if one little component goes down, the whole thing goes down. I don't know how ESRI sold us that whole idea, but it's not really working well for us. But yeah, so we have, of course, a network team that will help us out when there's issues. And if it's really specifically GIS, we'll reach out to ESRI as fast as we can. And we have like premium support, so they usually are really out there helping us as fast as possible. But it's... because, I mean, we talk about this whole bright knowledge, or this knowledge that GIS people need to have. When you're like a manager, you need to have some IT knowledge as well. You need to know a little bit about servers. You need to know a little bit about ArcGIS Enterprise. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
What type of interplay does the GIS have with elections? Like, does the city do anything with?
That's a county thing.
It's a county thing?
But,
okay.
I used to be a GIS manager for the City of Fayetteville, and GIS was more involved with that because that was one of those areas where Civil Rights Act was still applied. So they had to, every time it was like a redistricting, and GIS was used for the redistricting. They had like council districts, not like here where everybody's at large. So it had to go to the state to be approved. It had to go then to the Department of Justice to be approved. So when I started there, my first job had to do is make sure that GIS was helpful with redistricting these districts. Redistricting is a very political process, and it can get very political. But
yeah, one of the most exposed areas for GIS, I guess you could say, mapping in general, is just around these elections. You always see the map, right? They always have the map up, and it's red or it's blue or it's purple or it's in some form or fashion.
One interesting application I've seen, I think it was Winston-Salem last elections, they have like these wait lists, so you can see if you have your voting areas and the place where you vote. They have like interactive maps where it has like real-time data of like how long the line is.
Oh, okay.
That kind of stuff is interesting, yeah.
That's a good use case for it.
It is, yeah.
Do you think that displaying the data like that, though, as at the county level, being red or blue or purple or whatever, do you think that's a good way to visualize it, or...
Well, when you see these maps like United States, the election districts by district or whatever, no, because it kind of overrepresentative, like the rural areas, the larger areas. It's not where the people live. It doesn't show you where the people vote. It shows you the area voting really in a weird way. So I don't think that's very realistic. It's like when you see the election results map from the United States, its majority is red, and then you have some blue areas. But of course, the blue areas is in the cities. So it's like, but when you look at the map and not knowing that, it looks like, well, this should be easy. Red has won.
There's not some giant plane in Oklahoma that's voting for anything.
Right, exactly. So that's not the most. You don't really have a lot of other options though. I've seen maps where actually the individual votes, like when you really zoom in, you kind of see the individual votes almost.
Oh, okay. That'd be kind of interesting.
But then, of course, on a large scale like that, it was one big blob of stuff. So, but people need to realize that land doesn't vote.
Land doesn't vote.
Land doesn't vote. People vote.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. it always comes up every year. I always see, because I'm in the GIS space and things like that, I always see people saying, oh, we shouldn't represent the maps like this. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know a better way to do it. I've been racking my brain. If you know a better way.
There's actually an interesting book was written, I forgot the author. It's somebody who works for ESRI. Anyway, he took like one data set about the election results, and he had, I think, 100 different thematic maps in that book showing how it could be visualized different ways, like 100 different ways.
Okay.
Because, there's this famous book, was written, I think, in the 80s or so. It's like Lie with Maps or Lying with Maps. So you can have the same data and make it look like something completely different. Right, it's easy to lie with maps. You need to know,
lying with maps.
Lying with maps, your color, the way you represent the data, it just can present something completely different.
And it looks
can have the same data set, but it looks different.
And maps look so authoritative, right? Like if you have a map, it's like, well, they look really legit.
Right.
Map over here. And this is this because I've colored it this way, but people don't realize how easy it is to make a map.
Right. So no, it's easy to make it look something completely different. You have it a little bit with the election map, because when you look at that map with the red and blue, you think, well, red won the election because it's like majority of areas have voted red, but that's not what it's like. That's not reality, because cities vote blue. That's where all the people live. So when you add everything up, blue won or not. But
so you talked about how GIS people have to be creative, curious. What advice would you give to someone entering the GIS field for the first time that's kind of stepping into it? What does 3 decades sound like?
No, I mean, I assume that when you graduate as GIS analyst, you already have the creativity, in you, and the curiosity, because I do feel that's like one of the core elements of a GIS analyst. For anybody who just comes out of college, my biggest advice is connections. I'm not talking about technical skills, but make connections with people. It's so much easier when you become a part of a group, like a users group, or go to conferences. Make connections, because everybody who comes from college is smart, but how do you stand out from the rest of the crowd? So I think connections is going to be important. When you come from academia into GIS field, usually what I've noticed that there's a lack of knowledge of databases. It's like usually GIS in college is very focused on imagery. And for something in local government, we really don't use it a whole lot. But we use a lot of databases. So some database skills, like some SQL, and how to write a query is very important. So that will be. But I think connections. Even go on LinkedIn and create connections. Post stuff on LinkedIn. Make people know you. It makes life so much easier in starting your career. It really does. Be involved. Be actively involved in the profession. Go to a conference, present at a conference, make yourself stand out from the crowd.
That's good. Make connections, make yourself stand out from the crowd. Right. Go to the conferences. Conferences are great because you get to interact with leadership at all levels. Most leaders are at these conferences.
Right. Yeah. And the first time you might be a little nervous.
Yeah,
you don't know anybody, but the second time you go, you know people already. And the third time, man, it's going to a class reunion. You know everybody. I mean, it just helps you when you want to change or start your career, or you want to go somewhere else. Having connections in place makes a difference. Makes a big difference.
And I would say definitely, if you're entering the field, definitely go to the conferences. I know when someone's nervous, right, and that's fine. Right. It's totally cool, and one of the great things about this community is we'll help people out. It's fine. It's not, be nervous, ask a weird question. It's all good.
GIS people are very helpful. If you reach out, they will help you. I've never met a GIS person that was unwilling to help me out with something. Never happened.
All right.
They're the best people in the world. That's what I'm trying to say here.
The GIS people are the best people in the world. All right, Richard.
Okay.
One last thing. All right. If you had to have one message for the world, what would it be?
Please apply for a GIS analyst position in the City of Wilmington. Go to the City of Wilmington, North Carolina website, because that's really what I'm looking for right now.
This is what's going to be on Richard's tombstone.
No, GIS has always been the future, and it's still the future. It's an exciting field to be in, and a lot has changed, and there's going to be a lot of changes coming up, but it's like, I cannot think of a better career to have had, or to actually have. I'm still active, but it's been it's been a great field, and anybody that is interested in geography, I mean, just see the world. Go do GIS. I mean,
see the world. Go do
GIS. Be creative.
GIS.
Be curious.
That's awesome. Richard, thank you for being here so much. Really great to have you.
Thank you.
Have somebody that loves GIS as much as you do. Thanks for listening. If you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave us a 5-star review and subscribe on YouTube as well. This is the NDS Show.